Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It is a great pleasure for me to be with you this morning, alas virtually. I would like to thank the PM² Alliance for having invited me to give this talk about lessons learned from my PM² implementation experiences. A little introduction about myself and the organization I represent. I'm from Global Business Management Consultants, which is a boutique global organization engaged in project management and related areas, consultancy and training practices. In 2003, I started doing some trainings for DIGIT. DIGIT is the European Commission's IT Directorate, charged with providing ITIS solutions. Gradually, I got involved with a team that started developing PM² in 2007. In my current role, I help organizations implement PM² as well as I provide trainings. Today, I'm going to talk to you about PM². Why was it conceived in the first place? And then take you through the best practices that were used at the European Commission to roll out PM². Following that, I'll be talking about some pitfalls to avoid, and finally some suggestions for the future. To give you a little bit background about PM² implementation, back in 2006, the Director General of DIGIT, Mr. Garcia Moran, sponsored a COBIT survey of IT units in the European Commission. COBIT stands for Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. Amongst its findings, there was the need for common PM methodology for IT. At that time, RUP, Rational Unified Process, a software engineering method, was used for software development. Following this, in 2007, the journey for a common methodology began, and I had the pleasure of facilitating its first harmonization workshop in 2008, as you see below. It had its mission for IT to become the partners of business through improved project management practices. Not only that, it was charged with examining various methodologies and practices of project management before embarking on one that would become PM² as we know it today. Let's start by discussing why we need a methodology. I will just blank this 1 minute, please. Okay, why do we need a methodology? A methodology provides us with a uniform approach to project, program, and portfolio management. A uniform approach means there is no ambiguity, there are standard ways of doing things. Second, it was important to define when a project started, when it would end, and allocate funds according to this life cycle. So a harmonized definition of a project's life cycle phases was necessary. 3, a methodology provides an efficient and effective decision-making process through a governance model with clear roles and responsibilities. Number 4, a methodology provides a vocabulary in defining project management terms, as well as a glossary of all the acronyms that we use in project management, a common glossary. A methodology provides a standard set of artifacts to use throughout a project's life cycle and makes the life of a project manager easier, not letting a project manager create their own tools, their own artifacts as they go through projects. Finally, and most important, I would say, it provides a model of improving an organization using a maturity model. An organization through a methodology can see how it improves in delivering more value-added projects to the organization, saving time and money. This is not said lightly. There are many studies that show us that indeed a methodology helps companies achieve their objectives better than those who do not have a methodology. However, there are challenges in implementing any methodology. I have seen this in many conversations with colleagues and teams and various actors who, during PM² implementation, talk to me and say, well, it introduces constraints. It is different to the way we do work here. I have something, I have a tool which is working so well, so why change this? And now we have to make decisions. We have to go through governance process. It will slow us down. Another thing, people get frightened. Look at this. Wow, we have 100 pages to go through. It's complex. Number 4 is a natural tendency of humans to overcome what may seem to be obstacles in their path. The common thinking amongst people here is that, wait for it, I mean, just sit down, do nothing, it may disappear. Finally, all of us value freedom in the way we do our work. Now, how do we overcome these challenges? Well, I call it overcoming resistance. First and foremost, we must realize that projects are initiated to produce value for the organization as a whole and not for the individual. So the collective can decide how this value needs to be delivered. Second, stakeholders need clarity on the roadmap of the project. We cannot let an individual or a team decide how this value is going to be delivered. Third, many studies show that a method increases the chances of success and reduces the risks of failures in projects. There was one from the Project Management Institute, I believe a few years ago. There are other studies made in England, in the United States, run by other organizations like American Management Association and so forth. 4, a method facilitates the move of an individual from a functional role to a project management role. So this means that when I become a project manager, I'm not going to have to make my own shoes. I step into shoes that have been made already. Point 5, cross-functional experts who often come into the project to deliver value and then move out. Imagine if the situation was that you needed to learn a new method each time because a project team uses a different approach. So we overcome this challenge too by having a common methodology. All right, let's look now at best practices that DIGIT, the IT Directorate of the European Commission, used in rolling out PM². These are some of the best practices I picked up. I'm sure there are others. First, the team at DIGIT took a broad view. They examined project management standards, practices, methods from various external sources, as well as internal practices that exist within the European Commission. So this gave them a broad horizon of what could be the best way the best method to implement project management in Digit and as well as their partner organizations. Learning from experience, such as the deployment of rational unified process, they realized that the method had to be light. They also were looking at the standards around, which they deemed so voluminous that it was very difficult for any organization to adopt or use this to create a method. This is not confined just to Digit. Other organizations, other clients that we have also realized this, that all what they needed is 5 or 6 key things that needed to be done in projects. If you submerge organizations in hundreds of things that they need to do, obviously that would create confusion. Third, they rolled out a method complete with artifacts, that means tools and templates, processes, roles, and responsibilities. So you had everything in your hand. They recognized that methods, tools, and processes are not sufficient to bind, to create behaviors in teams. So they created a set of mindsets that would bind the tools, the processes, the life cycle, the governance model together. There are 11 mindsets. I can cite 1 or 2 just for example. For example, one of them says, we have to provide maximum value to our stakeholders. So forget that you're doing your project and you're doing your part. Think about your customers, the value you have to provide to them. Another one cautions that a methodology is there to serve the project and not the other way around. That means filling in documents is not going to serve the organization. It's interesting to note that major standard bodies, for example, the Project Management Institute, in their new Project Management Body of Knowledge, they also introduced 12 principles in a way resembling to the mindsets that hold true for all types of projects. Number 5, they realized that developing a project management method for IT is not going to engage their business partners who are not IT educated. So after a short while, they converted the method to become a generic approach to project management, a generic approach to projects, let's say. In parallel, they developed an agile method for software development projects. Number 7, following their experience from RUP, they did not force the method. And this, I'm not sure it was a great thing to do, because if you leave it on its own, there's uneven development of the implementation of the method across the various European Commission bodies. Number 8, rolling out a method on its own is insufficient. It has to come with a training program. This training program that they developed was rich and complete. Currently, it has 5 days of training, and it has not 1 level, but 2nd level that if you are a project manager, you can follow and become a practitioner. This certification path that they provided was a huge motivator. Hundreds of executives who work in the European Commission have access to the method and they can get certified. Number 10, which is, I think, one of the most important points. I do remember in the many presentations, there was a group of people who were so motivated by the method with no vested interest, who were promoting the method and creating a buy-in. I remember some of these people, Athanasius Maraslis, Nikos, who's here with us at the PM² Alliance, in their presentations, presenting it as an easy-to-use, complete, logical method that you didn't need to invest huge amounts of time to get to start using it. I think that was very important too, having these missionaries. Well, let's look at a few pitfalls for any method that you may wish to deploy. The first thing to realize that we are not in a stationary world. The Earth is moving. Our system is moving in our galaxy. So we have to adapt continuously and improve the method that we have. We should not feel comfortable in our success. This success can be a double-edged sword. It may give rise to complacency. Number 3, without effective and inspired leadership, initiatives flounder. We should know what's our goal. Are we trying to improve the maturity of the organization? Are we doing more projects on time, on budget? So it is important to know where we're going with this. What are we trying to achieve? Taking too long to reach your goal, it may become demotivating. It diminishes enthusiasm. There must be clear milestones and targets. Some organizations I work with are in the process now of implementing PM², and the journey is 1 to 2 years. There are others who is taking much longer. And there are reasons for that. This is senior management role, who can take charge and say this investment can provide much more value if we're involved. And that involvement is key for success. The 5th point is about adapting the method. It should be clear that one size does not fit all. We must provide flexibility that we can use the method for small, medium, and large projects, but not by creating another method. If we start creating for one business group, one method, adapted, these adaptations in the end, significant adaptations, create confusion. You might as well have a new method again and again. The 6th point is also important to realize that training and certification is not enough for successful implementation. These have to be supported by effective coaching and providing opportunities for the project managers who are trained to practice what they have learned. Through the lessons that we learn as we implement the method, not only we should learn, but use them and reuse them to become better at it. Some other traps that I have seen. Investments in methods cost money, not only in terms of the time needed to train the people, the cost of their time to be trained, the cost of the services they buy in terms of providing training to their people. We should measure before a method how successful were we in running projects on time. on budget, the required quality of scope, the value added of the project to the organization. And as we implement the method, our maturity improves. We should again measure and see, have we done any better? Have we improved the way we manage projects? Are our stakeholders satisfied with the investment made? Are we doing more projects successfully? Number two, if senior management remains aloof or not involved, there'll be uneven implementation of the method. There'll be pockets of success, pockets of failure, and that is not going to be effective for the whole organization. There must be ownership. There must be a home for PM². And that home should be a central one, not residing in one functional area, somewhere which is looked upon, a central point where the method is evolved considering all the business group needs. This home should have a number, a name, and I should know where to call for help. Fourth point, throughout my career, I have seen this over and over again. Certified project managers, it doesn't matter what is the type of certification. There is this belief that if we certify the project managers, we're going to have success. This is not a guarantee for success on its own. Certification is important, but it has to be followed by the opportunity we give to the project managers to practice what they have achieved as a certificate. Also, it's not the sole condition for success in project management, as we know. The fifth point is close to my heart because I have seen sometimes the project management offices, instead of being a service organization, they become a bureaucracy. They become an impediment to serve the business. So look at yourselves as PMOs if you are participating in this conference, and ask yourselves, what is the value added of the PMO? How am I serving better my client organization? Okay, now let's have a look to the future a little bit. The European Commission was certainly the incubator of PM² and its current guardian. That's great. Now, what happens externally? We need an organization like the PM² Alliance to promote, maintain, and improve PM² for external to the Commission environment. There are many things that need to be done. I will cite a few for you. Well, first, we need to develop a complementary agile approach. Currently, Open PM² is just Open PM². We do not touch agile approaches which are growing in number and in applications outside the IT environment. And I believe my colleague, Murat Özbilen, will be talking to you about this. We need to develop program and portfolio management as part of the PM² suite. What is missing now? I believe we do have mindsets, but we do not have linkages to the people practice side of project management. Without people practices, that means understanding behaviors, teams, leadership, emotional intelligence, we would not be complete as project managers. that linkage has to be developed as well. Many projects, most projects would use virtual teams. They would use contractors. So PM² also needs to provide that linkage. Clarity of roles and responsibilities. There are some updatings to be done to the method right now. There are EU-specific approaches which are different externally. Templates need to be completed. There needs to be also dissociation from ITIS projects to make it really generic. So these are some thoughts that I have. I do believe that this is a major European opportunity that can become global. Are we able to take a leading role? Will we? I don't know. But certainly, if we miss this opportunity, others can take advantage and lead the way. And I'd like to quote this nice saying from Richard Branson: business opportunities are like buses. There is always another one coming. Well, thank you very much for listening to me. I would appreciate if you gave me feedback. If you want to write to me, here is my email address. I'll be happy to talk to you by email or by phone if you like. Have a great conference, and I wish you all the best in your projects, and hopefully next time we can meet in person.